If you want a big, luxurious, expensive SUV, then join the club, because so do a lot of other people. The thing is though, is that even if you put down some serious cash, you're not going to stand out. Unless you get one of these, the Genesis GV80.
This car is absolutely nothing to do with Phil Collins and everything to do with the Hyundai Motor Group, who felt that in 2021 it was finally time for mainland Europe to be introduced to its luxury car spin-off. Think how Lexus is the premium brand of Toyota and you're just about there.
You see, the reason that cars such as the BMW X5 and Audi Q7 are so popular is because they are very, very good at what they do, and it's very tricky to beat them. Just ask anyone that works for Lexus, for example. This GV80 though, it has the exclusivity factor, but what else has it got? Well, stay tuned, because today we're going to find out.
First things first, the GV80 has a very straightforward set of engines on offer. You can either have a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol making 304 horsepower, or a 3 litre V6 diesel with 278 horsepower. All models are all-wheel drive and use an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Plus, an all-electric version, likely using the same tech as the Kia EV6, is rumoured to be on the way.
Now, one of the best bits about the GV80 is the interior, because it feels as expensive and as premium as its German rivals, but it's also got a slightly different layout that we haven't seen before, which is nice, although it is still very ergonomically friendly. You can get on the luxury line model, there's this nice wood design here, which really does lift things up a touch. And also, very nice feeling indicator stalks, proper buttons for the center console, and also Hyundai components that means that everything should work properly. Both the premium line and the more expensive luxury line cars get this 14.5-inch central infotainment screen, which you can control via the voice control, you can control it via touch, or on this center rotary dial down here, which a lot of manufacturers are actually getting rid of, but Genesis has stuck with it, and it reminds me a little bit of an old iPod, if you remember one of those, in the way that it works, because you spin this little wheel here and then you can press it in the middle to select the different options. It's not quite as intuitive as BMW's iDrive controller, but it is a nice alternative to the touchscreen display. The infotainment software itself is nice and responsive. The menus are quite clear. The interface, it isn't as polished, I don't think, as a BMW or an Audi system, but all in all, I don't think you're going to have too many complaints with it. The 12.3-inch digital dashboard display is optional and comes as part of the innovation pack, and it's very, very clear. You've got the 2 analog dials and a digital speedometer, so there's no complaints about clarity. All the crucial information is there right in front of you. It's not as customizable as what you see on Audi or Mercedes-Benz systems, but as I said, like the infotainment system, it does focus a lot on clarity. And something else that I like, when you go for an indicator like that, when you're going at speed, it shows you the camera from the wing mirror, which is looking backwards, so you can see very clearly the blind spot, and none of the worry about having big chunky pillars means that you can't see anything. You can with the camera, because it's almost like a virtual wing mirror, but you've also got the physical one as well, which is a nice touch. Last but not least, storage space up front in the cabin here. Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag actually, because the door pockets are quite small, the glove box is quite small, but the cubby holes, such as the wireless phone charger space up there, and then the cup holders in the center console, and the center armrest storage are actually quite generous. So yeah, it depends where you want to put stuff, but this is the best space for them.
Other features of the innovation pack include the head-up display, extra safety features such as the 360-degree cameras, which are very important on a car of this size, and wireless charging.
For those sitting in the second row seats, their happiness depends a lot on how generous you've been with your cash, because if you go for the optional second row comfort seat pack, then you get things like this blind for the windows, and that helps when you're trying to sleep. You get an electric backrest as well, and you also get, in addition to the heated seats, you get the ventilated seats as well, so it's just like sitting in the front. Aside from that, you've got enough knee room and leg room. I've got the seats actually pulled a little bit far forward, so that's why it probably looks a little bit less than it actually is. And the headroom is pretty good as well, although I wouldn't fancy being too far over 6 foot. That's my only real comment. But otherwise, it's a nice place to sit back here. Just a final note before we talk about boot space, and if you've got the 7 seats fitted in your GV80, then you should know that the knee room and the leg room actually isn't too bad, but it's the headroom that lets the side down, because unless you're a child, you're not going to be very comfortable back here. If you want to get 7 adults in a 7-seat car, you're better off with something like a Land Rover Discovery. Saying that though, something which is really quite handy is that you can fold these seats, these 7th row seats and the second row seats down and up again from the infotainment system up front, which is actually quite nice.
As for boot space, the GV80 scores very well indeed, with the 7-seat model delivering 727 litres of room with the third row folded down, and 2,144 litres with both the second and third rows folded down. And for anyone not familiar with modern SUV cargo capacities, that is larger than both the Mercedes-Benz GLE and BMW X5. Before we talk about how the GV80 drives, let's take a quick look at 3 of its main rivals. First up is the BMW X5. As is the case with most BMWs, it is excellent to drive, has a wonderful cabin and comes with a broad range of engines, including the impressive plug-in hybrid version. It's largely the same story with the Audi Q7, which boasts one of the best ride comforts around, while the Mercedes-Benz GLE stands out thanks to its glitzy cabin and outrageous AMG versions. Right, back to the Genesis.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's 2 engines that you can currently get with the GV80. There's the diesel, and then there's this, which is the 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine with 300 horsepower. And what you're probably thinking is, can a 4-cylinder engine be any good in a car that's as big and as heavy as this one? And the answer is, well, it's a bit unconvincing. In fact, it's straight up unconvincing, because while there's enough outright pace, the 0 to 62 time is actually under 8 seconds, which is pretty good. It's not the most refined engine in the world, so if you start to work it quite hard, it's noisy and it's thrashy, and it just doesn't feel like the kind of motor you'd expect in a car that costs this much money. I mean, saying that, if you are a little bit more gentle with it and you think ahead more, which is always good when you're driving, then you'll notice that there is actually just about enough torque to kind of pull you along relatively swiftly without exciting the engine too much. But it's just not offering you the kind of refinement that you really want from a luxury car with a petrol engine. You want it to be whisper quiet, and unless you're cruising at a steady speed, it's not exactly whisper quiet. I haven't driven the diesel, but my colleagues do tell me that it is the better engine for this car, so yeah, top tip, get the diesel. Something else which I'm not entirely sold on is the ride comfort, because while this car has got some very clever technology to help it ride better, such as the camera that scans the road ahead for bumps in the road so it knows how to prepare the suspension, the ride at low speed isn't as polished or as cushioned as it should be, or indeed as rivals such as the Audi Q7 or the BMW X5. It does get better once you get up to speed, but it is that low speed ride and the lack of body control as well, I think, which just doesn't quite give you the feeling again of a luxury car. It's just a little bit too harsh going over cracks or potholes in the road, of course, which there are a lot of in the UK. But yeah, as I said, get it up to speed, do lots of long distance cruising, and it starts to make more sense when it comes to how comfortable it feels. Not least, actually, because of these seats, which are super, super comfortable. And I've always said that I prefer comfortable seats and a firmer ride than the other way around. I mean, obviously in a car like this, you want them to be both comfortable, but saying that, these seats, they are fantastic, and the headrest, really nice positioning. Yeah, really good on a long journey. Also, the refinement, I mentioned it with the engine, you can still hear the engine when it's accelerating, but other than that, the wind noise, the road noise, they're pretty good as well. So as a long distance cruiser, this actually works quite nicely. I'm also a big fan of the driving position in this car because you've got a nice, good view out, you can see over the bonnet. There's not too much in the way of blind spots, which especially helps, of course, with the camera that looks back, as I mentioned earlier, when you go to indicate, so you can see that blind spot. And the seat and the steering wheel, I mean, there's so much adjustment in them. You can go quite low if you want for an SUV, or you can go to a level that is just ridiculously high. And, well, it gets to the point that it feels almost like you're sitting in the third row of seats because it is just so high up here. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter how tall or short you are, you should be able to get comfortable in this car. Finally, there is a huge amount of driver assistance tech on offer, whether that be the standard kit or some of the optional kit as well. I mean, this is an extremely safe car. It's one of the safest cars that you can currently buy, not least because of all the gadgetry that can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming when you're just trying to change lanes and you're not indicating because there's no other car around and it starts beeping at you. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at safety and you've got your kids on board, which of course you probably will be looking at safety, then this car has just such a broad array of systems. It's got smart cruise control, it's got lane guidance assist, it's got lane departure warning, it's got the blind spot warning, it's got haptic feedback. There's even something where if you're not paying attention to the road because it senses that you're looking away or you're talking to a passenger too much and not looking ahead, it'll alert you. There is such a wide range of safety kit in this car that although you'd never say it's impossible to crash it, because as we all know that's never going to happen, it really does try and minimize the risk of you leaving the road and having an accident in the first place. If you're looking to buy a Genesis GV80 but you're not quite sure which one to go for, then here is our top 3 choices. If you want the cheapest one available, then it's the petrol premium line model. If you're a company car driver, then you can get any because they're all on about 37% BIK tax rating. And if you're looking for a performance version, then it's probably best going for one of this car's rivals, which do have more convincing performance variants.
The Genesis GV80 is a decent first effort when you think of how long its European rivals have spent perfecting the recipe for a luxury SUV. Yet, the ride needs to improve, and a broader spread of engines would also be welcome, but there's definite potential in this customer service-focused premium brand.
For example, the buying process is all online only. There's no dealerships that you go to go and buy the car. You simply order one to your home for a test drive, and a Genesis personal assistant turns up and lets you drive the car. And if you want to then, say, try a different engine, they'll then bring that to you. If you then buy the car and it needs a service, then you book your service in and the person comes and takes the car away and leaves a courtesy car with you. It's an approach that is focused on customer service, and when it comes to luxury, there's a lot to be said for that minimal effort that you need to put into actually buying and owning this car. But would I recommend it over an Audi Q7 or a BMW X5 or Mercedes-Benz GLE? The honest answer is no, not quite yet, because it isn't up to the all-round standard of those cars and it doesn't have that breadth of ability. But if you're looking for something a bit different, that's very exclusive, and you also like the idea of being an early adopter, then I reckon that this Genesis GV80 is likeable enough and good enough all round to still be a respectable choice in the luxury SUV market.